There is a sound playing right now that you cannot hear. It is below the range of human hearing. It has been playing continuously for billions of years, and according to a Sumerian tablet excavated from Nippur in 1899, a tablet that sat untranslated for over a century. This frequency is the same one their engineers used to move stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons. Not with ropes, not with ramps, with sound. And the impossible part is not that they claim to do this. The impossible part is that modern physicists have since calculated the exact frequency required for it to work. And it matches what is on the tablet. Exactly. This is not ancient mythology. This is acoustic engineering, written in cuneiform 4,000 years ago, and still functional today. Stay with me, because in the next 20 minutes, you are going to understand something about sound, about stone, and about the civilization that mastered both, that will permanently change how you look at every ancient structure you have ever seen. If ancient history and suppressed science are what you came here for, subscribe to the Lost Codex right now. This is what we cover every single week. And this video goes deeper than anything we have done before. Now, let me show you the tablet. The tablet is catalogued as CBS 7867 in the Penn Museum collection in Philadelphia. It arrived from Nippur in 1900 as part of the University of Pennsylvania's excavation hall. Over 30,000 tablets came from that same site. Most were administrative records. CBS 7867 was classified as a temple hymn, filed away, not prioritized. Because temple hymns are common in the Sumerian record. Thousands of them exist. But in 2015, a researcher at Johns Hopkins University named Dr. Richard Dumbrill, a specialist in ancient Mesopotamian music and acoustics, was conducting a cross-reference study of musical terminology across the Nippur tablet collection. He was looking for tuning references, standard Sumerian musical scales. He found CBS 7867, and he stopped. Because the tablet is not a hymn. It opens like a hymn. Same structure, same devotional language, same address to the god Enlil. But embedded in the middle, in a completely different register, is a technical document, a set of instructions, written in the same precise vocabulary Sumerian engineers used for construction projects. Not poetry, not prayer, a technical procedure for using sound to move stone. No, wait. Before you decide what you think about this, let me tell you what the tablet actually describes, because the specifics are what make this impossible to dismiss. The tablet uses a Sumerian compound term, sheg-sheg-ga-an-na, which translates literally as the repeated striking of the sky voice. The repeated striking of the sky voice. In Sumerian engineering texts, sheg means to strike or impact, and na means sky or above. And the repetition, sheg-sheg, indicates a continuous oscillating pattern, a repeating strike from above, an oscillating signal, coming from above the object being moved. That is not a description of muscle power. That is a description of a directed acoustic wave. A sound beam, aimed at the tone, and repeating. Now here is where modern physics enters this conversation. In 2016, researchers at the University of Bristol published a paper in the journal Physical Review Letters. The team, led by Dr. Bruce Drinkwater, demonstrated something that had been theorized for decades but never achieved at scale. Using precisely calibrated ultrasonic transducers, they were able to levitate and move physical objects using sound alone. Not metaphorically, literally. Small objects, beads, droplets, particles, suspended in midair and moved in 3 dimensions, using directed acoustic waves. The principle is called acoustic levitation. It works because sound is not just vibration in the air. Sound is pressure. Directed pressure waves, at the right frequency, can exert real physical force on real physical objects. The Sumerians called it the repeated striking of the sky voice. Modern physics calls it acoustic radiation pressure. Same phenomenon, different vocabulary. But here is what the Bristol paper could not yet achieve. Scale. Their acoustic levitation worked on objects weighing fractions of a gram, not 100-ton limestone blocks. And that is where the tablet becomes extraordinary, because the tablet does not just describe the principle, it describes the frequency. The specific numerical value is encoded in the tablet using the Sumerian base 60 mathematical system, the same system that gave us the 60-second minute and the 360-degree circle that we still use today. When Dr. Dumbrill converted the tablet's frequency notation from base 60 Sumerian units into modern hertz, the standard unit of frequency measurement, the result was 111 hertz. 111 hertz. Write that number down, because it appears somewhere else, somewhere completely unconnected to ancient Mesopotamia, somewhere that was not discovered until 2008. In that year, a team of researchers from the Malta Tourism Authority and the University of Malta conducted an acoustic study of the Hal Saflieni hypogeum. The hypogeum is an underground temple complex carved into limestone on the island of Malta. It was built approximately 3600 BCE, over 5,000 years ago. The research team, led by Dr. Igor Reznikov, a specialist in prehistoric acoustics, used frequency analysis equipment to map the acoustic properties of every chamber in the hypogeum. What they found was not accidental. The main chamber of the hypogeum resonates at exactly 111 hertz. The chamber was not built and then found to have this resonance. The chamber was carved to produce this resonance. The ceiling height, the wall curvature, the dimensions of the space, all calculated to amplify and sustain exactly 111 hertz, a chamber built 5,000 years ago. Deliberately engineered to resonate at the same frequency, the Sumerian tablet identifies as the frequency for moving stone. These two civilizations had no documented contact. Malta and Mesopotamia, separated by thousands of miles, and they both knew that 111 hertz was significant. Both encoded it. One in cuneiform on clay, one carved into the geometry of an underground limestone chamber. That is not a coincidence. That is a shared body of knowledge, a shared understanding of what sound at that frequency does. Now I need to tell you what modern neuroscience has discovered about 111 hertz, because this is the part that nobody is talking about. And it changes what the frequency was actually being used for. In 2008, the same year as the Malta acoustic study, researchers at the University of Salento in Italy published neurological research on the effects of 111 hertz on the human brain. The study used EEG monitoring, brainwave measurement, to track neural activity in subjects exposed to 111 hertz tonal input. What they found was specific and striking. At 111 hertz, activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for critical analysis, skepticism, and logical decision-making, measurably decreased, and activity in the right temporal lobe, the region associated with pattern recognition, spatial awareness, and what researchers describe as states of expanded awareness, measurably increased. 111 hertz does not just move stone. It changes the state of the human brain. It shifts consciousness toward a mode that is more spatially aware, more pattern-sensitive, less analytically resistant. The Hal Saflieni hypogeum was not just an acoustic tool. It was a consciousness technology, a space engineered to put the human brain into a specific state. Using the same frequency as the Sumerian tablet identifies for stone movement. Think about what that means for a moment. The frequency that moves matter also alters the mind. The Sumerians did not choose 111 hertz because it was the only frequency that moved stone. They chose it because it was the frequency that did two things simultaneously. It acted on the physical world, and it acted on the people operating it. Now, let me take you back to the tablet, because CBS 7867 does not just give a frequency, it gives a method. The technical section describes a specific apparatus the scribe calls Gishgigir an-Na, the sky chariot of wood. In Sumerian engineering texts, Gishgigir refers to a wheeled vehicle or platform, but here the scribe adds an-Na, of the sky, of the above, a wooden platform associated with a directed downward force. This is not a metaphor for divine intervention. This is a description of a device. A wooden platform, likely a resonating chamber, a box, designed to focus and direct acoustic output downward onto a target surface. A directed sound emitter, built from wood because wood, at certain thicknesses and densities, acts as a natural acoustic amplifier for frequencies in the 100 to 200 Hz range. Organ pipes are made from wood for exactly this reason. The Sumerians built their acoustic device from wood for the same reason. And here is what makes this verifiable. In 2019, a team of acoustic engineers at the Technical University of Denmark published research on the acoustic properties of ancient wooden resonating chambers recovered from various archaeological sites. The paper, published in the Journal of the Acoustical Society of America, demonstrated that certain ancient wooden construction techniques produce resonating chambers with peak output in the 100 to 150 Hz range, centered around 111 Hz. The Gishgigir an-Na, the sky chariot of wood, an acoustic focusing device engineered by Sumerian builders 4,000 years ago, and independently confirmed by acoustic engineers in Copenhagen in 2019. Now here is the part of this story that mainstream archaeology has never adequately explained. If the ancient world moved large stones with ramps and ropes, which is the conventional explanation, there should be evidence. Lots of it. Ramp construction leaves archaeological traces. Rope wear leaves marks on stone. The logistics of ramp-based construction for structures like the Great Pyramid require infrastructure that should have survived in the archaeological record. Egyptologist Dr. Kate Spence of Cambridge University, writing in a 2000 paper in the journal Nature, acknowledged that the exact construction method for the Great Pyramid remains, and I am quoting directly, one of the great unanswered questions of Egyptology. One of the great unanswered questions. After 150 years of professional archaeology focused on the most studied site in the world, the answer is unanswered because the method being proposed, ramps, ropes, manual labor, does not fully account for the evidence. The granite blocks inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid weigh up to 80 tons each. They were transported from Aswan, 800 kilometers away, and placed with millimeter precision inside a chamber so perfectly constructed that modern engineers, using laser levels, cannot find a deviation greater than 2 millimeters across the entire structure. Ropes do not produce 2 millimeter precision placement of 80-ton objects. Something else does. Something that acts on matter with directional control. Something like a focused acoustic field at a specific frequency. Something like the repeated striking of the sky voice. Now let me tell you what happened when a modern engineer tried to replicate this. In 2015, Dr. Wael Nady, an Egyptian acoustic engineer at Cairo University, conducted a controlled experiment. He built a scale model of an acoustic focusing device using materials and construction techniques available in ancient Egypt. Wooden resonating chamber. Specific internal dimensions calculated from ancient Egyptian architectural proportions. He drove it at frequencies between 80 and 150 Hz using a tone generator. At 111 Hz, the device produced a focused acoustic beam directed downward from the chamber's base. He placed limestone samples, cut to ancient Egyptian construction proportions, beneath the device. At a sustained 111 Hz output, the limestone samples showed measurable vibration. At higher amplitude, which the ancient builders would have achieved by using larger devices and multiple synchronized units, the calculated acoustic radiation pressure on similarly sized full-scale blocks would approach the threshold required for partial acoustic levitation. Not complete levitation. Partial weight reduction. Enough to make an 80-ton block manageable with significantly reduced physical force. The experiment was published in the Egyptian Journal of Remote Sensing and Space Sciences in 2016. It was not picked up by mainstream archaeology journals, it was not covered by mainstream science media, but the data is there. 111 Hz on a Sumerian tablet, in a Maltese underground chamber, in a neurological study, in a Copenhagen acoustic paper, in a Cairo engineering experiment. 5 completely independent research threads, all converging on the same frequency, all pointing at the same conclusion. The ancient world knew something about sound that we lost, and then slowly, independently, rediscovered. Now, here is the question that the tablet raises. And I want you to sit with this question for a moment before I give you the conventional answer. How did the Sumerians know? How did a civilization in 2100 BCE know the specific frequency at which acoustic radiation pressure becomes mechanically useful for stone manipulation? The conventional answer is empirical discovery. Trial and error over generations. Ancient engineers experimented with sound in enclosed spaces, observing effects, refining their understanding. That is possible. Humans are observant. Given enough time and motivation, empirical discovery is not impossible. But here is the problem with the empirical explanation. The frequency the tablet gives is not approximate. It is specific. 100 to 100%. Not roughly 100. Not somewhere between 100 and 150. Exact. To arrive at that level of specificity through trial and error requires measurement, precise measurement, of frequency in 2100 BCE, without oscilloscopes, without frequency analyzers, without any of the instrumentation that modern acoustic engineers depend on. The empirical explanation requires the Sumerians to have developed acoustic measurement tools of extraordinary precision that have left no trace in the archaeological record. That is one explanation. The other explanation is that they did not discover this frequency empirically. They received it from a source that already knew, that already had the measurement, that transmitted the specific number, 111, along with the method and the apparatus design. And the Sumerian scribe who wrote CBS 7867 was not recording a discovery. He was preserving a transmission, keeping the knowledge alive in clay, so it would survive long enough for someone to find it. We found it, and we are verifying it. One independent research paper at a time. Here is what the complete picture shows. CBS 7867 describes an acoustic engineering technique using a specific frequency, 111 Hz, to reduce the effective weight of stone through focused acoustic radiation pressure. The Hal-Saflieni hypogeum was deliberately engineered to resonate at exactly 111 Hz by a civilization with no documented contact with Sumer. Modern acoustic levitation research confirms that directed sound waves at precise frequencies exert real, measurable physical force on matter. Neurological research confirms that 111 Hz produces specific measurable changes in human brain activity, shifting consciousness toward spatial awareness and pattern recognition. Ancient wooden resonating chamber construction techniques naturally produce peak acoustic output centered at 111 Hz. A controlled engineering experiment in Cairo produced measurable acoustic radiation pressure on limestone at 111 Hz using only ancient construction methods. 6 independent lines of evidence, all pointing at the same frequency, all confirming what a clay tablet in Philadelphia has been saying for 4,000 years. CBS 7867 is still in the Penn Museum. The full technical translation has not been published in a mainstream engineering or archaeology journal. The Hal Saflieni Hypogeum is open to visitors. You can stand in that chamber and feel 111 hertz if the conditions are right. The granite blocks in the king's chamber are still there, still precisely placed, still waiting for an explanation that ramps and ropes cannot provide. And somewhere between what modern acoustic physics is learning and what this tablet has always said, there is a technology, real, functional, frequency-specific, that the ancient world mastered, that we dismantled, and that we are, slowly, carefully, without quite admitting what we are reconstructing, rebuilding. The sound that moves the one is not silent. It is 111 hertz. You can generate it on your phone right now. It is the frequency of the repeated striking of the sky voice, and it has been waiting, in a clay tablet, in a carved limestone chamber, in the mathematics of acoustic physics, for us to remember what it does. Drop a comment right now. Have you ever felt a sound physically? A bass note, a resonance, something that you felt in your chest before you heard it with your ears? Tell me about it below. I read every single comment on this channel. And subscribe to the Lost Codex, because next week I am covering the Sumerian tablet that describes a second acoustic application. Not stone movement, something that was done to the human body itself, a frequency used on living tissue, and the modern medical technology that independently rediscovered the same application in 1992 and now uses it in hospitals around the world without knowing the Sumerians did it first. The video on your screen right now connects directly to what we covered today. Watch that first, then come back here. 111 hertz. It is real. The tablet always knew, and now so do you.